Guys, and today we'll be talking about Mark Jackson and Mike Brown. So let's get right into it, because what is interesting is sources say, according to Sam Amick of The Athletic, neither Mike Brown or Mark Jackson was offered the job as of late Saturday evening, Sunday morning. So let's get right into who do you think is going to get hired right now. I think Steve Clifford's out of the picture. Mike Brown will remain with the Warriors until their playoff run is done. So if it is Mike Brown, potentially he might not be announced later. If it's Mark Jackson, it'll be sooner, we'll find out. But Mark Jackson has interviewed for the Lakers job as well on Friday. It was reported by Shams Charania. So the Kings connections, present and past, haven't stopped. Look, former Kings coach Luke Walton was in attendance last night, as was Alvin Gentry, the coach who replaced him in an interim fashion when he was fired in late November of this past year. Both men are former Warriors assistants and thus part of the same Golden State Warriors coaching tree that Vivek Ranadivé, the owner of the Sacramento Kings, has been fixated since his days as a minority owner with the organization. That chapter ended for Ranadivé when he became the lead owner of the Sacramento Kings in 2013. Sources says neither Mark Jackson nor Mike Brown was aware that Ranadivé was planning to be in attendance, so it was unclear if there was any substantive meaning to this visit. And I look at this right here. Basically, Ranadivé left when Mark Jackson got fired. I don't think it's going to be Mark Jackson at this point, because if Ranadivé was a big fan of Mark Jackson, he could have hired him right when he bought the team. He's had 9 years, almost 10 years to hire Mark Jackson, and he hasn't done it. He's chosen Alvin Gentry, Luke Walton, okay, as the two coaches that we've really seen. And, there's plenty of other coaches who can go down the list, but out of this Warriors tree, and I really think he's fixating himself on Mike Brown, because Mike Brown was the offensive coordinator for the Golden State Warriors for the past 4 years. In the last 2 years, he's been the defensive coordinator architect. And I know I'm using terms that are more synonymous with football, but the way it works, there's the lead head coach, assistant head coach, which Mike Brown is, and typically they do have a little bit of everything, or they specify on something. And that's something that happens with most assistants. Usually the top two assistants, one's the top assistant who oversees all the other assistants, but he's usually focused just on defense or offense. And then the second in command assistant coach is usually the other one. So if the first one's defense, the other one's offense. First one's offense, the other one's defense. And that way you have coaches with different philosophies able, to coach different aspects of the game that they're very well at. And I believe Mike Brown, because he has a plethora of experience, I think, Vivek Ranadivé is looking at this and thinking, I think Mike Brown's the right coach. So that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Are you guys with me on this, or is this just me? Okay? I honestly think this is what's going to happen, but it's an interesting situation to see, because Mark Jackson and Mike Brown both known as it's defense what this team needs. And I would like to see Mike Brown's system, but at the same time, I like the idea of a Mark Jackson. But I personally feel Mike Brown having the coaching experience and coming from the Warriors, being there for the last 6 years, is just going to have a better impact than Mark Jackson, who's been in the booth for the last 9 years. I think it's Mike Brown. He's put in the work. He's waited his time. He's built his reputation back up. There was a while where Mike Brown was being laughed at, and I feel bad for him. And I think he's at a point in his career where people are respecting him again. So that's where I'm at right here. I want to hear your thoughts down below. Either way, Mark Jackson could easily get the Lakers job. That just seems like such a Lakers hiring.